Now, the word budget, it's derived from a French word actually. It means leather case. So, because the budget documents used to be carried in a leather case. So, that is how the word budget came about. The budget, the term is not mentioned anywhere in the Constitution. Constitution nowhere says it's budget. It's called annual financial statement. It says the president should cause the annual financial statement to be placed in Parliament. So it is an annual financial statement of estimated receipts and expenditure for the financial year. So revenue budget includes revenue, receipts and expenditure. You must be knowing these are all basic things which you should be knowing. Anyway, I have included them here so that it's better to recall and remember so that you will not forget, it will stick in your memory. And capital budget includes capital receipts and payments of the government. There are two kinds of revenue receipts: tax receipts and non-tax revenue. Revenue expenditure is the expenditure incurred on day-to-day functioning of the government and on various services offered to citizens. It's very clear, it's simple, it's not very difficult to understand. And major part of capital receipts or loans from public, foreign governments and RBI. Capital expenditure is the expenditure incurred on development, on machinery, equipment, buildings, health facilities, education, etc. So you know what is meant by capital expenditure. And what are capital receipts? Capital receipts are market borrowings, and also you have non-debt capital receipts. Debt capital receipts, that market borrowings, they are it's a borrowing because it's a debt for the government. Non-debt capital receipts are recoveries of loans. The government also gives loans. It recovers those loans. That is a non-debt capital receipt. And the disinvestment receipts are also non-debt capital receipts. So that is the classification there. Now some important terms used in the budget. One is GDP, gross domestic product. All of you must be knowing what GDP means. It is a total value of goods and services produced within the geographic boundaries of the country during a specified period of time, normally a year. When you give a definition, when you are asked to give a definition, you have to be precise. Because when candidates come for mock interview, we used to ask them to define GDP. They will say value of goods and services produced. Produced by whom? Produced when? Produced within what time frame? And what in the geographic area? All that is not included. Then the definition is not complete. So you have to be very, very precise. Goods and services produced within the geographic boundaries of the country during a specified period of time, normally a year. It is an important indicator of the economic performance of the country. Now, revenue deficit is a difference between total revenue receipts and total revenue expenditure. Fiscal deficit is the excess of total expenditure over total revenue. This is another important concept. I will talk about it in a little more detail. It is an indication of total borrowings needed by the government. Fiscal deficit, Dr. Rammohan also mentioned about fiscal deficit. He said fiscal deficit is important. Deficit financing is important. Why is deficit financing important? Anyone? Why is it important? Why is fiscal deficit important? Why is deficit financing important? Why do governments resort to deficit financing? Now, let me give the example of a household. Now, supposing your household has an income of, say, 1 lakh rupees, total income of 1 lakh rupees. your expenditure is 1,20,000 or 1,10,000. So what do you do? Okay, or let me say your expenditure is 95,000. You save about 5,000. You invest. You put it in bank in a deposit, recurring deposit or something. Supposing your expenditure is 1,10,000, you have to borrow 10,000. Now, if you are satisfied with keeping your needs within your income, there is no problem. No problem. But you will remain where you are. You will not grow. Supposing you want to have a two-wheeler and you want to buy a four-wheeler. Supposing you want to buy a house, or you have a small place, you want to go to a bigger place, you want to buy some property. Your income will not be sufficient to manage that. So you have to borrow. And you have to borrow and pay EMI regularly. Then only you will grow. So some borrowing is necessary for growth. It is the same thing for government also. The government also borrows money so that the economy grows. I hope I am clear. Now, deficit financing is very important because it's an indication of the fiscal deficit is very important because it is an indication of the total borrowings needed by the government. And primary deficit is a difference between the fiscal deficit of the current year and the interest payment of previous borrowings. Next slide. Why is budget significant? Because it delivers the balance sheet of the government. It informs us what happened during the year and what is proposed to be done in the next year. It shapes the macroeconomic environment of the country, how the decisions on raising resources and spending will impact the macroeconomy. It also provides reform signals on which economic agents place their expectations. So these are the major reasons why the budget is very important. Yeah. Now here comes the budget at a glance. Okay, I have given the revenue receipts here, capital receipts. So total receipts is, okay, this is revenue receipts and capital receipts together make the total receipts. Total expenditure. So the total receipts and expenditure tally. No, so it's the same, so the balance sheet tallies. Revenue deficit is the difference between the revenue expenditure and the total revenue receipts. It is 5,23,846, which is 1.5% of GDP. Fiscal deficit is 4.4% of GDP. Now, this one, you say last year, the budget estimates provided for 4.9% fiscal deficit, 4.9% of GDP. The year before that, it was 5.6%. So some fears were expressed that the fiscal deficit is going a little out of control. So the government decided to bring it down to 4.9%, and they have succeeded. And now it is estimated to be 4.8%, well within 4.9 is 4.8%. And then budget estimates now for the next year is 4.4%. Fiscal deficit is going to be brought down still further to 4.4% of GDP. Primary deficit, it's a difference between fiscal deficit and the interest payments amount. So that is 0.08% of the GDP. So it's an indication of how efficiently the government is performing. Now I don't know, we have to see this. So the revenue receipts, I just tell you, it includes tax revenue and non-tax revenue. So non-tax revenue, there are some, interest, dividend, and then public sector contribution. All this is non-tax revenue. Then capital receipts, recovery of loans and other receipts, total receipts, total expenditure. Now, if you see the fiscal deficit is a difference between total expenditure and total revenue. It is 15,68,936. If you see borrowings, market borrowings, 15,68,000, it is the same as market borrowings. So to cover the fiscal deficit, you have to borrow from the market. And that is how you tally the budget. Next slide. Yeah, again, the same thing I have just indicated there. I think you can split this. The sources of financing fiscal deficit, mostly market borrowings. Next. Now, the revenue receipts. What is the composition of revenue receipts? Income tax contributes 22% to the tax revenue of government. Just to have some broad understanding of this, that is enough. Because income tax, you just to have some idea what are the various items that come to government and what are the expenditure and what is the fiscal deficit, what is the size of the budget. So these things, if you know, I think that is enough. Income tax 22%, corporation tax 17%, GST and other taxes 18%, excise duties 5%, customs duties 4%, and non-tax receipts 9%. These are the revenue receipts. 75% of the total receipts is revenue receipt, and 25% is capital receipts. 25% borrowings, 24%, and non-debt capital receipts 1%, which is negligible. Next slide. Now this is the diagrammatic representation. Now you will find that borrowings contribute major 24% of the total revenue, and income tax 22%, followed by corporation tax 17, GST 18, corporation tax 17, and other customs, central excise and all 9% totally. So just to give an idea of where the money comes from. Yeah, next. Now this is the trend in tax revenue. You will notice that this is the red line is the gross tax receipt. You will find that this is the direct tax and the indirect tax. Earlier, the ratio was more or less equal, but now slowly direct taxes are contributing more. What are direct taxes? Anyone? What are direct taxes and what are indirect taxes? Customs, excise, GST, they are all indirect taxes. Now, direct taxes are contributing more to the revenue than indirect taxes now. And trend in net receipt of the tax, that is after devolution. Okay, next slide. Now, expenditure breakup. Expenditure, interest payments, 20%. States share interest payment is quite a lot because the government is borrowing heavily, for infrastructure expenditure, for capital expenditure and all, government has to borrow. So they have to pay interest on that. So that takes away a substantial. Now I gave the example of a household earlier. Now if you borrow money to buy a house or to construct a house, you have to pay a heavy amount as interest and also towards principal. So similarly, government also has to pay heavy interest. Interest payments 20%. States share of taxes and duties 22%. Central sector schemes 16%. Finance commission and other transfers 6%, 8%. And then CSS is centrally sponsored schemes. Then defense 8%. Subsidies 6%. Pension 4% and others 8%. This is how the total money is spent by the government. You will notice that states' share of taxes and duties is 22%. In addition, the central sector schemes, CSS is centrally sponsored schemes, they're all, and finance commission and other transfers. Most of this revenue goes to the states. This is the transfer. Can I repeat that one? It's a transfer of resources to states. Transfer of resources to states and union territories. Yeah. there are various kinds of transfers, because this is one thing which you have to remember. Because there is a big issue between center and states. The states are saying that central government is not giving them enough money, and they are taking away all the money. That's what the states are saying. And the Finance Commission is constituted every 5 years. The Finance Commission makes recommendations about devolution of taxes from center to states. And there are, apart from devolution, there are other forms of transfer of funds to state. I want to just briefly mention so that you know that there are more than one way of transferring money to states. And intelligent state should make use of all this, whatever is available. Now, when I was working in the government, one of the main jobs was given to me was to identify which are the schemes with the government of India, where money is available. That is, money is centrally sponsored schemes. Some schemes have 50-50 contribution, 50% state, 50% center. Some schemes have 70%, 30%. Some schemes have 90-10. Like that, there are various schemes, centrally sponsored schemes. To identify those schemes which can be implemented so that our income is maximized, our revenue is maximized. That is one of the main jobs given to me. So this is very important because sometimes the states make a cry that they are not getting enough. Now I'll show you devolution of states' share in taxes. What is meant by devolution? It is the money that is shared by the center with the states based on Finance Commission's recommendation. There are two kinds of devolution. Anyone? Any idea? What are the two kinds of devolution?
Vertical devolution, horizontal devolution.
Who said that? Very good. Vertical devolution and horizontal devolution. What is vertical devolution? The money passed, it is decided after the Finance Commission's, based on Finance Commission's recommendation, the center is now transferring 41% of what is called the divisible pool. Divisible pool is the income tax, corporation tax, GST, all these taxes. So 41% of the total taxes are passed on to the states. That is the vertical devolution. Horizontal devolution is how this money is distributed among states. 41% is the formula, total amount to be transferred to states. How is to be distributed among the states? There are various guidelines given. It's based on some formula. One is called income distance. So your income distance means, supposing our state is doing very well and Bihar is very bad, the worst, and we are the best and Bihar is the worst, the distance. So the comparison of Bihar with Tamil Nadu, which is the best performing state. So if the distance is more, Bihar gets more. You follow? So you compare the state with the best performing state, and depending on that, you allocate resources. That is one criterion. Income distance. The second is area. The third is population. And then forest cover. Forests and then forest cover. That is another criterion. Another is tax effort. How much you have contributed to taxation efforts of the government. And now they have added one more criterion, which is called demographic performance, which means that if you are able to implement after the hue and cry raised by states like Tamil Nadu, they have said that demographic performance also will be one criterion for devolution. So based on these, money will be divided between the states. So coming to devolution, apart from devolution, there are other items some important items of transfer. Assistance is given to states from the National Disaster Mitigation Fund. Disaster Mitigation Fund. And there is also a disaster relief fund. When there is a disaster, you get money. So when the government gives money, the state will give a demand for some 5,000 crores or 10,000 crores like that. They will give some 600 crores or 700 crores like that. So that money comes from the disaster relief fund. And then externally aided projects, because the state governments are implementing a number of externally aided projects with World Bank, with Asian Development Bank, all that. So those projects, part of it comes as grants and part of it comes as loan. And then grants and so that special assistance to states for capital expenditure, that is also given. And then finance commission grants. Apart from that, what is devolution? There are also finance commission grants for local bodies, for corporations, municipalities, panchayats, for local bodies, urban bodies and rural bodies. And then there are grants for health sector, grants for incubation of new cities, grants for shared municipal services, grants in aid for state disaster relief fund. Like Central National Disaster Relief Fund, there is also a state disaster relief fund. The grants are given by the central government under state disaster relief fund. So these are the total transfers. And then apart from this, as I mentioned, there are schemes, centrally sponsored schemes, and then central sector schemes. There are schemes which are implemented by the central government in respect of their sectors. There are some sectors which are exclusive in the central government thing. And there are other things which are state, along with state centrally sponsored schemes. And capital transfers. Then, so these are the various types of transfers given to states, which add up to quite a bit. It is not just 41%. Well, next slide. So, how it has increased over the years. Total transfers to states and union territories. I am dealing with this at some length, this issue, because it is important as a center state issue. It is very important. And there is always tension between the central government and the state governments on this issue. And the composition of transfers to states, finance commission grants, scheme related transfers and devolution. So everything, is going up substantially. Next. Now, I came across an article in the Hindu some 4 days back, which gave this chart. It says state-wise distribution of the divisible pool in percentage. Now, I mentioned that states are aggrieved that, the best performing states are not given their due, which is a fact. So this table will show that, if you take the 5 southern states, earlier Andhra and Telangana were one. So they are clubbed together. These 4 states in 2002, they received, if you add these 4, it will come to 25.7, I think. So 25.7, 21.75 or something like that. So it will come to that much of the total resources, total available money, divisible pool. 21%, 21.75% was coming to these states. Now it has come down into 25, 26, it has come down to 15.6 or something like that. 15.7. So from 21 point this thing, it has come to 15.7. You will find this total adds up to 15.7. You see the share of Uttar Pradesh. Uttar Pradesh alone gets 17.9% of the total share. Whereas all the southern states put together are getting 15.7% of the divisible pool. And that is why, the states are complaining that we are given a stepwise early treatment, which is a very valid complaint. And similarly, Bihar, it gets 10.1, 17.1 cents. So these 2 states are cornering, and maybe Rajasthan 6, Madhya Pradesh 7.9, West Bengal 7.5. These are all the badly performing states. They are getting a lot of, they are being rewarded for their poor performance. Next, the budget size. You please remember the budget size. What is the total expenditure of the government of India? You should say it is 50 lakh crores, 50.65 lakh crores. That is the total income, and that is also the total expenditure. And this is the gross tax revenue, net tax receipts, capital receipts. Totally it adds up to this, and then various other receipts like market loans, debt receipts, capital receipts, dividend, state share of taxes, how the gross tax revenue is going to different states, and net tax receipts, and then finally total amount that is available for expenditure. This is the budget in a nutshell. Next slide. This is the expenditure profile. The same 50.65. It is scheme expenditure. This is transfers, establishment, and other expenditure. Then it is central sector schemes, subsidies, then other central expenditure, and how it is shown how the money is spent in different ways. It adds up to the total 50.65 crores. Next slide, please. Okay. Now, the vision of the government, I told you, is to achieve Viksit Bharat. Viksit Bharat is developed India by 2047. The theme of the present budget is Sabka Vikas, development for all. And the aim is to stimulate balanced growth across all regions. And in line with the theme, the finance minister outlined the broad principles of Viksit Bharat. So she has outlined some 5 or 6 principles of Viksit Bharat. In every budget, she comes up with some. Last time it was Saptarishi or something like that. This time it is Viksit Bharat, some principles. Next slide. Now these are the principles, which are very, very important. This one, because this is going to be relevant for the next few years. Agriculture is one focus area. Zero poverty, women's economic participation, quality education, healthcare access, skilled labor. Now, as far as agriculture is concerned, farmers are making our country the food basket of the world. So, agricultural excellence we should strive for, and we should also aim at zero poverty. So, no one should be below poverty line. Third is women's economic participation. The target is 70% women in economic activities. Then quality education, providing access to high quality education for all. Then skilled labor, 100% skilled labor with meaningful employment. That is another healthcare access, ensuring. So poverty alleviation, health, education, then labor empowerment, rural empowerment, and agriculture excellence. These are the 6 principles of Viksit Bharat. Next slide. Now, while presenting the budget, the finance minister talked of 4 engines of development. What are these 4 engines? Agriculture is one. Next is micro, small, and medium enterprises. 3, investment, and 4, exports. Now she has come up with various schemes under these 4 categories, and these are the focus thrust areas for the government this year. That is 4 engines of development. Next, coming to agriculture, what are the schemes? I have just indicated. You don't have to remember each and every scheme, but if you remember at least 1 or 2 schemes, that will be good. Now, the Prime Minister Dhan Dhanya Krishi Yojana, that is developing agricultural districts program, to be launched in partnership with the states, covering 100 districts in the country with low productivity, moderate crop intensity, and below average credit parameters to benefit 1.7 crore farmers. And then a comprehensive multi-sectoral program to be launched again in partnership with states to address underemployment in agriculture. First is employment in agriculture. Second is underemployment in agriculture through skilling, investment, technology, etc. Now, this also first phase will cover 100 districts. The third is government to launch a 6-year mission for Atmanirbharta in pulses. That is self-sufficiency in pulses with focus on tur, urad and masoor dals. Masoor. So NAFED is a marketing federation, and NCCF is cooperative, consumer cooperative federation. These two agencies will procure these pulses from the farmers during the next 4 years. Now, of course, they are procuring paddy and wheat. Now they will procure these pulses also. Now, comprehensive program to promote production efficient supplies and processing of vegetables and fruits, and to offer remunerative prices to farmers, to be launched in partnership with states. The economic survey also had pointed out that vegetables and fruits, you have to develop because there is a lot of potential there. So this is that's how this came. And then the Makana board. I don't know. It's I checked up what Makana means. It's called Foxnet. It is called Tamil Tamarai. Tamarai Vidai. That's Tamarai Vidai. Foxnet. So I think that's used as a cereal, I think, in Bihar. So yes, Makana board will be established in Bihar to improve production, processing, value addition, and marketing. Next. Then a national mission on developing and propagating 100 high-yielding seeds to be launched. Government to bring a framework for sustainable harnessing of fisheries with special focus on Andaman and Nicobar and Lakshadweep Islands. Then 5-year mission to facilitate significant improvements in productivity and sustainability of cotton farming and promote extra long staple cotton varieties to be launched. Loan limit under the modified interest subvention scheme to be enhanced from 3 lakh to 5 lakh for loans taken through the Kisan credit card. These are various schemes for farming, for farmers, and for improving the agriculture sector. And an urea plant with annual capacity of 12.7 lakh tons will be developed in Assam. Namrup. Next. Now, micro, small and medium enterprises. This is the second engine of development. The investment and turnover limits for classification of all MSMEs to be enhanced by 2.5 and 2 times respectively. And customized credit cards with 5 lakh limit for micro enterprises to be issued, promoting financial inclusion and economic participation. Then third one is important, it's a big item, a new fund of funds with expanded scope and a fresh contribution of 10,000 crores to be set up. And the last one also is quite important, a new scheme for 5 lakh women, SC and ST first-time entrepreneurs to provide term loans up to 2 crores in the next 5 years announced. Then, Tamil Nadu has been doing very well in footwear and leather sector. So the finance minister made a mention of it in her budget speech also. And to enhance the productivity, quality and competitiveness of India's footwear and leather sector, a focus product scheme announced to facilitate employment of 22 lakh persons, generate turnover of 4 lakh crore and exports of over 1.1 lakh crore. This scheme is likely to benefit Tamil Nadu in a big way. So, a scheme for promotion of footwear and leather sector. Then a scheme to create high quality, unique, innovative and sustainable toy manufacturing. So that India becomes a global hub for toys. That has also been announced. Then a National Institute of Food Technology, Entrepreneurship and Management to be set up in Bihar. You will find that Bihar gets a lot of attention in this budget. You know why? Because the elections are due in Bihar shortly, in the next few months. Next, a national manufacturing mission covering small, medium and large industries for furthering Make in India announced. Next. Urban Challenge Fund, that is 1 lakh crore allocated to support cities as growth hubs, creative redevelopment of cities and water and sanitation with 1,000 crore allocated for 2025-26. Then Jal Jeevan Mission for drinking water, it's extended till 2028 with an outlay of 60,000 crores. This is a major scheme which has been under implementation for some time. You have to remember at least 5 or 6 names of these schemes, and also because they are very important. These are all what they call priority schemes for the government. Maritime Development Fund, 25,000 crore. Expansion of technical education. These two, 6,500 seats in IITs. Additional seats will be available in IITs next year. Similarly, in medical education, 10,000 new seats will be available next year. And out of a total of 75,000 seats are going to be created in the over 5 years. So, of 75,000 seats, first year 10,000 seats, medical seats. And IITs, 6,500 more students will be admitted in IITs. And 10,000 fellowships for advanced research in IITs and Indian Institute of Science. And then there are 50,000 Atal Tinkering Labs. Atal is Atal Bihari Vajpayee. Atal, that's why it's called Atal Tinkering Labs. To be established in government schools the next 5 years to improve innovation. In the schools to improve innovation, 50,000 labs are going to be set up. Next. So daycare, this is from another important scheme. Daycare and cancer centers to be set up in all districts, district hospitals in the next 3 years, with 200 centers at in 2025-26 to ensure affordable cancer treatment. So in 200 centers will be set up the coming year. And then there is a digital language books to enhance school and higher education accessibility. Nuclear energy mission to be set up. UDAN is regional connectivity. So to enhance connectivity to 120 new destinations and to carry 4 crore passengers over the next 10 years, air traffic. It will also support helipads and smaller airports in hilly, aspirational and northeast regions. And then greenfield airports. So greenfield airports will be developed in Bihar alongside the expansion of Patna Airport and the brownfield airport at Bidita, Patna, all in Patna, Bihar only. So now, what is a greenfield airport and what is a brownfield airport? Anybody?
From the scratch books are paid from the greenfield. Already expand brownfield.
Yeah, there is greenfield airports. Greenfield area is undeveloped area. So mostly it will be in the rural area. Brownfield is maybe in an urban or semi-urban area. Already it's developed to some extent. So their airport will be developed. Then Western Koshi Canal ERM project. So this is for irrigation infrastructure again in Bihar. Next. Export promotion. So a promotion mission will be established with sectoral and ministerial targets led collaboratively by the Ministry of Commerce, MSME and Finance. Then Bharat Trade Net, a unified digital platform facilitating international trade documentation and enhancing solutions. The National Framework GCC, policy incentives to promote outsourcing hubs. Then warehousing facility for air cargo. So under the export promotion category to facilitate exports. Next. So tax reforms, this is the most talked about thing in this budget. No income tax for annual income up to 12 lakhs. So extended to 12.75 lakhs for salaried employees with a reduction. So if a person is having an income of 1 lakh per month, he need not pay any tax. It will another 75,000 for salaried employees with reduction. So it's available. And you don't have to pay tax, if the tax deducted at source on rent also increased from 2.4 lakhs to 6 lakhs. You will be in the lowest slab. Even if you get about 2 lakhs per year, you will be in the lowest slab. So that is what the budget provides for. And tax returns, time limit for updated tax returns extended from 2 years to 4 years, facilitating voluntary tax compliance. Next. Indirect taxes. So basics, customs duty. So exemptions, 36 life-saving drugs for cancer, chronic and rare diseases, fully exempted from BCD, basic customs duty. Then cobalt powder and waste, scrap of lithium-ion batteries, lead, zinc, and 12 more critical minerals will be added to the list announced last year for complete exemption. The survey had pointed out that the critical minerals, China is advancing a lot in promoting these critical minerals. So I think India also is trying to do something to in this area. In textile and electronics sector components exempted to encourage local manufacturing and reduce dependency on exports. In social welfare and inclusion, PM Swan Nidhi, that is street vendors, for street vendors a scheme. So UPI linked credit cards with 30,000 limit to enhance financial inclusion. And identity cards for gig workers, that is contract workers. Registration, then ensuring social security and health benefits, and under PM Jan Arogya Yojana. So for the contract workers also will be covered under the health scheme. Then Gramin credit score and small fund. So 15,000 crore fund to complete 1 lakh more dwelling units with contributions from the government, banks and private investors. 1 lakh more dwelling units will be completed during the year. Next. So financial sector reforms. Jan Vishwas bill, that is decriminalizing 100 plus legal provisions, easing business operations and reducing regulatory compliance burdens, following the recommendation made by economic survey. Then FDI in insurance sector. This is another important announcement. FDI in insurance sector. FDI cap in the insurance sector will be increased from 74% to 100%. FDI in insurance sectors. So this has been criticized by some people, saying that you are allowing foreign direct investment in insurance sector. 100% insurer, they can enter the insurance sector. So which will affect LIC. LIC employees also stage some agitation or some dharna or something. Then investment friendliness index of states. So a new ranking framework for states to promote competitive cooperative federalism. And then pension sector, and then high level committee for regulatory reforms. This is a major announcement. The high level committee will be formed to review all non-financial sector regulations, certification, licenses and permissions. This is going to be a major step for deregulation. This is again based on the economic observation. Now, allocation for major schemes. I said that you must remember at least a few schemes. I have just given 15. There are more than 100 and odd more important schemes. I have just given 15 schemes here, and the allocation is PM Garib Kalyan Anna Yojana, PM GKAY. So the allocation is more than 2 lakh crores.
Try to remember many of them.
Okay, at least some names of some of these schemes. Major ones, PM Garib Kalyan Anna Yojana. And then National Highways Authority, Road Works. And then this, of course, Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Program, you all know, 86,000. Jal Jeevan Mission also, I mentioned, drinking water, 67,000 crores. Pradhan Mantri Kisan Samman Nidhi, so that is 63,500. PM Awas Yojana, that is a rural housing scheme. Awas Yojana, 54,000. Samagra Shiksha, for education, 41,000. The state government is saying that they are not given money, released money into the Samagra Shiksha program. National Health Program and Urban Health Mission, 30,000 crores. Sakshan Anganwadi and Portion, that is midday meal program, Portion. So, yeah. New Employment Generation Scheme, they have provided 20,000 crores. Surya Ghar Mufti Bijli Yojana, that is solar energy program. Surya Ghar Mufti Bijli Yojana, 20,000 crores. Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, again urban. So that is one rural housing scheme, there is an urban housing scheme. The urban scheme 19,794. And Deen Dayal Antyodaya Yojana, that is Rural Livelihood Mission, 19,005. And Gram Sadak Yojana, that is Rural Roadways, Rural Roads Project. Gram Sadak Yojana, Rural Roads Project scheme. So these are the some of the schemes which I have indicated. So what are the major takeaways from the budget? Now, the finance minister surprised everyone by announcing a major scheme of relief, major income tax relief by raising the tax rebate level to annual income of 12 lakh. She also tweaked tax slabs so that the highest tax rate, 30%, will come into effect after one reaches an annual income of 24 lakhs per annum. This coupled with other reliefs like increasing TDS on rent and increasing the limit for interest income should be welcomed by the middle class and senior citizens. Middle class have been saying for a long time that they want some relief. So the finance minister, of course, boasted that they have heard the voice of the middle class. But actually, what happened was that the Delhi elections were due in the next 4 or 5 days. So that the opposition is saying that you are hearing the voice of the middle class only on the eve of the Delhi elections, because the Delhi area is full of government servants. Mostly they are taxpayers. So these reliefs will be beneficial to them. And now, as per their expectations, the BJP has won today in Delhi, and AAP has been defeated. Even Kejriwal has lost his constituency, I think. So, and there is greater focus. Of course, there is a counterpoint to this first takeaway is that you are providing relief to income taxpayers. Income taxpayers are only 2% or 2 crore people only are paying income tax. The country has more 140 crore people. So what about the others? They are all paying GST. They are all paying indirect taxes. What about relief for them? And so they say, okay, this is good, but you also do something for them. Next is greater focus on employment generation in the shape of measures announced. You would have noticed that number of schemes were there to generate employment. If they are all implemented properly, then it will give a big boost to the economy. And FM has announced the creation of a committee that will look into regulatory reforms that are required to make it easier for companies and entrepreneurs to do business in India. This is a welcome step, though it is long overdue. Then, despite massive tax cuts that will cost the government around 1 lakh crore in tax revenue, FM's attempt to keep the fiscal deficit to 4.4% of the GDP is laudable. They want to have fiscal consolidation, so which is quite a. But again, another point of view here is that why should you be so bothered about fiscal deficit? You should spend more on important schemes. You should provide more allocation for, say, a Mahatma Gandhi Rural Employment Generation Program and other employment-oriented programs, and see that more employment is generated. Why you are bothered so much? Why are you obsessed with fiscal deficit? That is another counterpoint. So the last point is the capital expenditure target has been missed from the current financial year, by almost 1 lakh crore. Though the budgeted capex is less compared to the current year's figure, the capex allocation is still high by historical standards. Now, this government has always been allocating a lot of money for capital expenditure. So this year the expenditure has been less compared to previous years, a little less. But still, the allocation also for the next year is less. But still, if you go by historical data, it is still high. It's good enough. If this is implemented, if this expenditure is incurred properly, it will give a boost to the economy. Because capital expenditure is always employment oriented. Next. So there are some bouquets and brickbats on the budget. So PM Modi says that it's a force multiplier. This budget will increase savings, investment, growth and consumption. Because once there is more money, there will be more expenditure, more consumption, then more further production, more then again the cycle will go on. So force multiplier. And the Rahul Gandhi, leader of opposition, says the backward classes and minorities pay GST, but benefits of the budget go to industries, which is what the opposition is saying. Nitish Kumar, Chief Minister of Bihar, says the budget is progressive and futuristic. So naturally he will say, because this is the only state that has been benefited a great deal by this budget. Our Chief Minister, Mr. Stalin, says that demands are numerous. Highways and railway projects, metro rail for Coimbatore and Madurai. Why has nothing been given? What is stopping you? He is asking. So that's no reply. Now, next one, the president of CII, this Confederation of Indian Industry, says setting up of a higher level committee for reforms and the move to decriminalize another 100 business laws are welcome steps in the right direction. And then our Chief Minister of Kerala says allocations are based on electoral calculations, which is a very valid point. And then the rationalization of personal tax regime could unleash a potential consumption boom of at least 3.3 trillion rupees spent over baseline. This is what the State Bank of India chairman says. And Akhilesh Yadav, the socialist leader, says budget provides no plan to reduce unemployment or inflation and makes no announcement on the legal rights of MSP on crops or loan waiver for farmers. So they are all on predictable lines. I used to say earlier also that the view on the budget, like beauty, it's on the eye of the beholder. So the person who is looking at it, if I think that somebody is beautiful, then I will say he or she is beautiful. Somebody else may not think so. That perception varies from person to person. So beauty lies in the eye of the beholder. Like budget also lies in the eye of the beholder. Next. Now, what is the common man's reaction? So this is what the common man is asking. Now tell me how to earn 12 lakhs. So this is the exemption limit. So this is the reaction of the common man to the budget. Yes. Thank you. That's all. I know that there is a lot of statistics. It's very, very heavy for you, especially at this time of the day, after a tiring day. It will be very heavy. But you should remember at least some concepts. At least if something is registered in your minds, I would be happy. So some basic things, some information about the economy and also about the budget and what the budget says, what are the major takeaways of the budget, what are the major takeaways of the economic survey, and how these two are related, and what is our vision for the future, and how far are we going in that direction, whether we are going on the right path. So all this, if you think about these things with reference to these data, that will be time well spent. Thank you.